September 27th, 2021. You're listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. I'm Kevin.
And I'm Don.
And it's the bottom of September. And we are here once again.
Girls.
We've had a nice week of weather. I know I've been complaining about it recently, but it's been great this recent. So I got some yard work done. I'm happy about that. And I'm very domestic. I was trimming my bushes, right? And I got like a couple of them small bushes. And, you know, I always see people, they trim their bushes. They make like pelicans and shit out of them. I can't do any of that. You know what I mean? No. Like I'm barely able to make a square.
Right.
And so like I got a couple of smaller bushes and I kind of, you know, trim them off and they look okay. But then I have this big giant bush, right? It's like really tall and I have to get on a ladder to get to the top of it. And but my buzzsaw or whatever, the hedge trimmer, you know, it's one of them, I think it's like 2 feet long or something, right?
Yeah.
24 inch or something. And it just wasn't long enough to get to the whole thing because it's so big. Even with me on a ladder, like stretching, like I couldn't do it. So I ended up ordering just recently, like one of them 42 inch ones, you know, real long and dumb. And I'll give that a go. I also can get a bigger ladder and just get up there, but it just, you know, it just gets a little obnoxious when you're doing all that just to trim some bushes, basically.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got that done. I put up some of my Halloween stuff. I have more to do with that for the yard. But it's been all right. It's been a good week. How's it going with you?
Well, for those who don't know, which is pretty much everybody but you and me, I got a new car today.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I mean, it's not a new car, but it's new to me, so I'll take it.
What'd you get?
I got a 2014 Ford Focus.
Oh, okay. Sure.
I had been like I had been saying the previous week, I've been going around all these lots and there hasn't been any new cars or they don't have any cars out. So it's like they pump the prices up on everything and they're like trying to get thousands, like 18, 19,000,
right?
You know, and it's like, I'm looking at cars. They're like, it's a 2017. It's got 80,000 miles on it. I'm just like, what? Like, that's not right. But, I went on today, as I said last week, my mom was getting a little bit like, hey, I'd like to have my car around so I could use it if I needed to.
Right. Yeah.
And really me driving it around, I felt guilty driving around the whole time anyways, because I'm just like, oh my God, I got to get a car. You know what I mean? It's just like,
right. For sure.
I'm driving my mom's car. I got to get out of here. So I finally went on. But I went online today. There's, you know how there's always those commercials on the radio for all the car places.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I finally, one of them rung in my head. Falls Motor City. Oh, yeah. The deal is for real, right?
Yeah, right. I've heard that. Yeah.
It hit in my head, and I was like, you know what? I should look online at that place to see what that's all about.
Right.
And I did. I found a 2014. It had 29,000 miles on it.
Wow.
It's had one owner, and
jeez, that's really low. That's
like 4,000 miles. 4,000 miles a year.
Yeah, it almost doesn't seem right, but whatever.
Right. So I was just like, let me jump on this real quick. And honestly, I didn't plan on driving out of there today with the thing or anything like that. I was like, I'm just going to go there. I'm going to test drive it, check it out. You know, I'll put my stamp on it and come back later or whatever. But you know how them car dealers are. They're like, so you want to?
They want you to take it home right away. Like they want you to have it.
Yeah. He's like, so we could just do this right now. And I was just like, oh, and I got like a good deal. I put, enough money down where I got a nice monthly payment. And,
cool.
So I got a car and it's like, if I could probably pay it off in 2 years, less than 2 years. And, I could just give it to Sophie because she'll be 16 in April. And eventually she's going to need a car. So to be like, well, here you go. You can have this one.
It's going to smell like a lot of fast food though.
Yes. A lot of cheesecake.
That's a good little car because you're gonna get great gas mileage out of that Ford Focus,
right.
And that's what you need for what you're doing right now,
right?
So that's great. That works out awesome. I think Lori had one of those for a while. I don't, you know, she's one of those people that I don't think she leases her cars or something, but she never seems to like keep her car too long. You know, it always seems like the bug gets her and she upgrades and it can't afford to upgrade, but she, you know, she works it out somehow, or she gets some deal or something. But cool, man. That's cool. That is weird that you went and picked it up just before the show. Like, it's late. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you go get it at night.
Because I went out there, and then the guy did the stuff, and he goes, "Here you go," and he hands me the key, and I was like, "Well, what am I doing with this?" And he's like, "It's your car. To do whatever you want." And I was like, "Yeah, but I drove here, so
right."
You know what I mean?
I was in the same boat. Yep.
It's like I can't do that. So I was like, I'm driving home trying to get Clinton on the phone. Like, hey. So I finally got him on the phone. I was like, "Can you drive me out to this place?" And he goes, "You know," he goes. I was like, "Can you drive me out to Cuyahoga Falls?" And that's, you know, on the turnpike, 40 minutes, something like that. And he's like, "Well, it's pretty far." And I go, "Well, my choices are you and Adam." And he goes, "So you want me to call Adam for you?" Like, no, like, please, no.
Yeah, that's funny.
Like, I'm begging you. So he came and picked me up and drove me out there. And I mean, literally jumped out of the car, jumped into the new one, and took off. I was like, there we go.
That's awesome. Yeah, I had the same thing when I bought my my Volt. Actually, I had the same thing with the BMW, but with the Volt, it was the first time. You know, I went there and I was going to buy it in cash. I'll pay off the whole thing in cash. No, folks, I'm not loaded like that. This was a fluke thing that happened. I had a bunch of money and
just happened to fall in place.
Just had just enough to buy like a car like that. You know, right? You know, in cash, right?
Yeah.
It's just the way this worked. And I first time I ever did anything like that. But I was there, and I was telling the guy, I said, "All right, well, you know, this sounds like a good deal and everything, you know, because this car was lower priced than the other ones for whatever reason." I found out later it's because it was this campaign car and it was some bullshit. But anyway, the car itself was fine. It was just that, you know, it was used at car shows, right? Yeah. And they didn't tell me that, you know, so they had dropped the price down like $1.50 or something like that than a comparable new car. But when I was buying it, I was like, why is this particular car cheaper than the other car? You know what I mean? It's the same car. Like, why is this one cheaper than that car?
Right.
And the guy gave me some bullshit about how, like, well, you know, we buy things in volume and then occasionally we want to move inventory and this one's, you know, and you don't know what they're telling you, you know. But anyway, there was nothing wrong with it. It's just that, you know, probably had like 500 people sit in it. You know what I mean?
You're right.
Yeah. And then look at it and shit and push the buttons and stuff. So it's sort of annoying. But whatever. So anyway, but yeah, so I'm like, well, this is cool, you know. I like this, and so I'm gonna have to go and get a certified check. You know what I mean? Because this is a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
You know, paying this all up in front. And the guy's like, well, if you got a personal check, we can clear it right here for you right now. And I'm thinking to my head, I'm like, that sounds crazy. Like how do you know that I'm not bullshitting you? You know what I mean? Like, I'm just going to write you a bad check and drive out with a fucking $35,000 car at the time. Right. And, you know, but they did, man. They cleared me with a personal check. And I was like, that's fucked up. I mean, I would never do some shit like that. You know what I mean? Like, if I was selling that guy something for like that kind of money, I'd be like, you better go to your bank and get a certified check.
Yeah, right. Or you'd be like, you know what, I'll take your personal check, but you're going to have to wait about a week.
Right.
So it clears.
Yeah. No kidding, man. But that's great, dude. I'm glad. That's been like an ongoing thing on this show. See, folks?
Yeah.
It's come full circle. Dinah's got a new car. And then next week, we'll hear about how you took the car out on your work adventures. And how it went for you. Everything.
Yeah.
That's good, man. Good stuff.
Kid. Yeah.
All right. So, this week I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about the differences between parents when we were young, or adults, let's say, and people that are adults now that are our age, like around late 40s, early 50s. Okay. And the reason I bring this up is, like, when I turned 40, I wasn't bummed out or anything about it, but like 40 kind of irritated me in a way, because I felt like, 40 is kind of like it's like it's like a year where you're no longer young. You're not young at 30. You know what I mean? But like 40 is like you're getting closer now to the end than you are to the beginning, right? I mean, it's just like it's a mental change. Like the average lifespan is 78. You know, certainly if you take care of yourself, you can live to be, look, Clint Eastwood's 91, right? Could be as old as Clint Eastwood. Who knows? But, you know, in general, men don't live as long as women and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, 40, it just kind of irked me a little bit. Like, you know, what am I doing with my life and where am I going and all this kind of shit. And, you know, and so I spent some time, you know, reflecting on it, you know, kind of realizing like where I kind of wanted to go and, you know, what I wanted to do with myself because you know, I don't have a bucket list, so to speak, right? I'm not somebody like where I'm at in my life right now professionally, right? I can save some money and I could go do just about whatever I want to do, right? Yeah, I can't go to fucking Monaco on a yacht or something, right? I don't have that kind of money. But you know what I mean? Like if I wanted to go to Japan and walk around Tokyo, yeah, I could get the time off of work and I could fly to Tokyo if I really wanted to do that. Or I could jump out of a plane or I could go on a cruise to the Bahamas or whatever the fuck I wanted to do, right? You know, it might take me a year to save up all the money and schedule it and everything, but I can do all those things, you know? And I don't want to do any of those things. You know what I mean? Like I might at some point, maybe when I'm retired, like to maybe go to Europe and maybe look at like war memorial stuff like that, you know, and things because that kind of interests me, you know, tour around the whole thing for a year or whatever. But on the whole, like that's not even much of a deal with me. My whole thing is I've always enjoyed my friends, you and you know, the guys and everything. And I like spending time with all of you guys because that's where I'm happiest. You know what I mean? Like we all have fun and not all the time. I mean, some people get annoying like Dan, but you know, you know, that's, I'm happy to be where I'm at. That's kind of how it is. Right. But at the same time, I want to be somewhat productive. You know what I mean? I want to help people and make life better for people that are around me and have good relationships and family and things like that. So I kind of keep working on that sort of thing. Okay. Now, at the same time, like I think back to when my dad was 40 years old and I'm not 40, by the way, folks. I mean, everybody knows this by now, but I'm pushing 50. Right. But my dad, you know, when he turned 40, I distinctly remember the time period because what had happened is I had a suction cup gun. Okay. Which if you don't know what that is, it's this plastic gun. You pull this spring back, right? And you put in this dart with a suction cup on the end of it. And you could like shoot it at like a refrigerator or a real like flat piece of wall, and it might stick. Most of these things were pretty cheap though, and they tended just to fall off pretty quickly, right? But
go
ahead.
I was just going to and fall apart.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's just a cheap shit toy that kids would get, etc. But I had one in my hands and I had it loaded, and I was sitting on the stairs and I had watched too many movies or something, and I was thinking it'd be pretty funny if my brother came around the corner and I shot him in the forehead and it stuck to his forehead, right? Now, I know that's like impossible. I mean, you know, but whatever. He came around the corner and I fired and I popped him right in the eye with it. So he's like, Dad! He screams, you know, because he has to be drama to just cause trouble because he gets a kick out of that. And of course, my dad comes around the corner and he just starts yelling at me. And you know how it is when you were like that age, like you're not even really hearing what they're saying. There's this loud noise coming out of their mouth. You know what I mean? And you're just kind of staring at them being like, I hate that fucking noise that's coming out of his mouth, you know? But that was his 40th birthday, right? So that, I know, fuck it up a little bit for him, but he was all right. But that was his 40th birthday. And so I kind of remembered like, you know, that time period. And, you know, my dad, you know, he had a family, right? That he was a second marriage, and he would go to work and he would come home with his briefcase and hang up his coat and he would sit down and eat dinner. And then he would watch a little late night TV. And, you know, when the weekends came, he would, other than we would go to church. We were a very church active family to some detriment. But occasionally he would tinker around with something in the garage or take the cars up to the mechanic or whatever the hell he did. Right. You know what I mean? But it was all pretty mundane and, pretty basic, really. Right. And I'm not saying he was that basic, but it's just kind of what he did. And, he was part of this, these groups of people that maybe like they would, friends would occasionally come over, maybe play cards, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they would go to a dance, like a ball or something. Like, I don't know, but they would go to something like that. I mean, I was a kid. I didn't go, they barely told you what they were doing when they would leave, but it was always something a little bit more, they weren't, there was never a point where like my dad was going to be like, I'm going to go tailgate at the Browns game. You know what I mean? Like he liked watching the Browns, but he wasn't going to go get like fucking shit faced in a parking lot before the game. Right. Yeah. And there's no problem, whatever. But occasionally my dad did go to the bar and throw some back, but it was pretty rare. Right. He was more of the guy that like when the weekend came and the game was on, he'd crack a beer on Sunday and watch the game. The rest of the time, it was more like he was just kind of watching his TV and not doing too much. Now, my dad was maybe a little bit less motivated than a lot of fathers, etc. But I had enough exposure to other people's parents, right, to see that adults in general, not everybody's parents, but in general, kind of followed a similar format, right? And I look around now, and I know guys that are older than you and I, like, Mole and Joe and Dan even, and my brother, etc. And a lot of these guys don't have, like, they're still walking around like they're 20 years old or something, right? Or 20 or 21 maybe, or whatever. Yeah. They have no like thought of like, I don't know how to explain it, like no thought of responsibility or something. Like they're not interested in projecting the sort of what was going on with adults back in like the 80s and maybe the early 90s where everybody was kind of formal, I guess, like it just would be, I don't know. It would be weird. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I mean, it's cool that people like, can be into heavy metal and go to Ringworm concerts when they're, 55 and shit like that. Right. But I look back and I go, my dad would never have gone to something like that. Not that he even liked, like metal or something, you know what I mean? But if if Elvis was still around or something and he was having some kind of show or something, and my dad was 55, he would not have gone, you know what I mean? Like it would have been crazy. And so it's like a different mentality that it was between then and now. And I wonder like, I wonder if it's like, if it's good or bad, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's just like my friends don't have it all together. Some of them don't. I know that.
No. That's part of it.
But then there's also like, do other people have it all together? Like I know some people like, that are successful business people and things like that. But, and they wouldn't go to like a Ringworm show at 55 either, So like, is it them or is it just like a sign of the times type of thing? And I don't know. I mean, what you're thinking about it now that I've been babbling about it for a while. What's your experience like? Like, how do you see it between your parents and where you're at?
It's funny that you brought this up because I literally 3-4 days ago or something like that, I was sitting somewhere and I was thinking about, I saw the picture of your dad on Facebook.
Right. My brother posted it.
Yeah. Right. And I was just like, oh, because I'm scrolling through and I saw it and I was like, hey, that's Mr. Baird. and I was just like, what? I go, what is this? And I'm looking at it and I read it and stuff, you know. And then I was like, yeah, I see Kevin in there. I see Brian in there. And it got me thinking about stuff. And I was like, yeah, you know, you're 48, you know, you're coming up on 50 and stuff. And I was thinking, my dad was 40 when I was born.
Right.
And I said, okay, so what was I doing? I go, when I was 8 years old, I go, oh yeah, that's when he was coaching my soccer team. And I immediately flashed back to that time. And I was thinking about it. I was like, I'm nothing like him. Like,
Right,
you know what I mean?
right.
He's like, wait, because like you said, he gets up in the morning, he goes to work. You know, my dad was a bricklayer. So, I mean, he was in dirty work. So
Right.
he was always in the steel mill and stuff like that. But it's like he would get up, he'd go to work. He'd come home, he'd take a shower. It sounded exactly like what you said. He would come home, he'd take a shower, he'd sit down, he'd have a couple beers, he'd watch some TV, he'd eat his dinner, read the paper, whatever, and then go to bed. And and occasionally, like on a Friday or Saturday night, they'd be like, hey, we're going to, you know, so-and-so's house, or we're going to go out to this ball, or we're going to go out to this, you know,
Right.
dance thing. And it was like, as a kid, you don't know. You're running around. You didn't know what was going on because you're doing your kid things. And it's just like,
Right.
all of a sudden they come out of the bedroom and they're dressed all nice, suit and tie and stuff. And it's just like,
exactly.
whoa, what's going on here? And it's like, I'm not running around like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, I tell Sophie, she goes in her room and she's laying in her room. I go in there. I go, hey, how's it going? She goes, good. I go, you need anything? She goes, no. I go, you good then? She goes, yeah. I said, all right, I'm taking off for the night. And I just leave, you know?
Right.
So it's like I drive away and it's like, shouldn't I be dressed better than this? Shouldn't I,
You know,
shouldn't I have a plan? Shouldn't I have any, you know, and yeah,
like you might go to somebody, you know, you're probably going to your girlfriend's house, but you could have, like, you know, depending on, you know, the time period, like you could do that and you could go like hang out at Clint's house, right? Or you could hang out at one of your friends' house and you could chill out and play some video games or whatever, you know, bullshit and all this sort of stuff. And I cannot see my dad doing that. Like I cannot see myself like in Jamestown where I lived, not the one people from the Pilgrims and shit. It was an apartment complex. And my dad being like, I'm going out with Derek. I'll see you later. And then have him like get in his car and drive over to his buddy's house, Derek, and just like sit on the couch and like party with him. You know what I mean? Like I can't. I don't think it happened. Like I don't think it happened. Like I don't think like that ever happened.
No, I know that didn't happen here. I mean, my dad was they probably went somewhere and met up with somebody, had some drinks, they had a meal. You know,
right. Casual conversation, right?
Yeah, because they'd be like, I'd be a kid, they'd be like, okay, we're going to a Christmas party or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, and then they go to a Christmas party, and now I'm older, and it's like nobody has Christmas parties. Like I don't. Like right. I'm like looking around, like how come nobody's having get-togethers, or how come nobody's inviting anybody over, or how come nobody's? I mean, other than the pandemic, but I mean, even before then. We'd be lucky to have one, like all of us would be lucky to have at least one get together where everybody would show up a year.
Right. And I wonder about that. Like and that's another thing. Like I think like, is that just our group? I mean, Larry invites people over for his things, but like, you know, he's way out in Cuyahoga Falls and it's a drive, like you say, and you know, you don't want to go and get all buzzed up and then have to drive home for 45 minutes, but whatever. But like, the rest of the people we know, like they rarely have people over to begin with. You know, you kind of have to call them on the phone, like with Packard or something, and be like, "Hey, do you want to have people over?" You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And then it'll be like, "Hey, you know, that's a good idea. We should do that." You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I had. Why can't you come up with it? You know what I mean?
Right. It's like you got to. Well, even if you wanted to hang out with just one person, sometimes you just got to press the issue. You got to be like, "So, what are you doing?"
Right.
Oh, nothing. Watching TV. Oh, you want to go? You want to go hang out and do? Yeah. You know, like the people we hang out with are just like, I don't really feel like going anywhere. Right. I like the solitude of my house. It's weird. It's weird.
But yeah, parents in our day, they would do things like that, or they would have people over. You'd meet people. They'd come over to the house, and they would be like, "Shit, I remember going over to your house, and you'd have relatives in your house and stuff." I couldn't understand any of them, But, you know,
Right.
there would be new people there, and you'd be like, yeah, those are my cousins from Scotland. They're staying with us or something. And I'd be like, oh, this is weird,
Yeah.
but okay.
And yet, as an adult, I've never gone over my cousin's house, any of my cousins or my aunts or uncles or nobody. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like I've never, like, come on, Sophie, we got to pack up. We're going away for the weekend. Oh, where are we going? We're going to go to Uncle Al's house.
Right. Yeah.
They'd be like, why? You know, like, why are we doing that? So it is. Another thing is, like, you watch these TV shows, you see like shows like Modern Family or like shows dealing with families and stuff. And it's like, everybody's always showing up. People are always like, oh, we're having dinner. And the whole family just happens to be coming over. And it's like,
Right. Yeah.
I haven't eaten dinner with my whole family, barring holidays like Christmas, Thanksgiving, stuff like that, since my parents' 80th wedding anniversary, which was a while ago. You know, it was like 10 years ago or something like that. Or not my parents' 80th anniversary, their 50th anniversary, which was years ago. You know what I mean? It was just like, that's weird.
Yeah, right. No, it is. It's just it's a different thing. And I look at people like say Mario and Genie. You know who I'm talking about. I don't want to say last names. But you know who I'm talking about. So he's a successful guy. You know, he works at the clinic and he's got a good life going and he's got 3 kids and they're all doing well at different age ranges, you know, and they have family and all that sort of stuff. So I imagine they probably eat at the table and you know, have those sorts of family things. But I see him in this year of 2021 and all of our friends I haven't hung out with those people in over a decade, right? You know what I mean? Like longer. But I'm sure that's still how it is. And I see those people as the exception and not the rule. Where when we were young, I would say that was the rule. Like if I went over somebody's house and they were like, hey, we're eating, nobody just handed me a plate while I was sitting in the bedroom. You know what I mean? You went to the table and ate with their family, you know?
Yeah.
Like there was none of this, like, occasionally you'd be with that one group where you could, like, they'd get pizza and you'd get the paper plates and sit on the couch and watch TV. But for the most part, like if you were just having a regular meal, yeah, you were sitting with his family. I had to sit with Don Cease's family, and that's some crazy shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like it's but not today. I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, I think it's the exception. I know plenty of people with kids, so I don't think it's just, I mean, you got kids and Brian's got kids and Mole's got kids and everybody's got kids, you know, and I have not been in a situation that's been anything different than what we've talked about. Like it's a lot looser today, but go ahead.
I was gonna say even like you were saying, it's like I went to Rom's house and he's like, when we were kids, like in 5th grade, 6th grade or something like that. And he was like, do you want to stay for dinner? And I was like, oh, okay, sure. Because in my house, my mom makes something. It's in the kitchen. Whenever you get home, it's there. Go eat it.
Right.
You know?
Right. Sure.
And we don't, you know, and I was like, yeah, sure. I'll have dinner over here. And he's like, cool. And then it was all of a sudden, it was like, all right, everybody, let's go to the table. And I'm just like, what? Right. Like, it's like, we got to sit at the table. And they're looking at me. They're like, Don, you're our guest. Would you like to say grace today? And I'm just like,
yes.
No. I'm like, no, go ahead. You guys can do it. I don't know how to.
Yeah, we used to do that. I know how to do it. But, you know, you can just say anything. Yeah, no, and I'm sure, listen, folks, if this is still how your house works, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, where we're at, and at this point, it's such a weird, like, transitional thing. Like this guy we know, he's in school right now for criminal law, right, or something, criminal something. And he's 55 years old, and I sit there and shake my head. I'm like, he's going to retire in 10 years, right? Like, right. What's he in school for? Like, you can work longer and everything, but he's not going to. Like, he's not that guy, you know?
Right.
He's not going to be like, I'm going to have a career for the rest of my life, you know, which, may not be that long. Right. But it's like you're doing stuff Like you're 20 years old, you know, you're
Right.
not, you're 55 or whatever. You're close to 55. Like it's just crazy. And don't get me, listen, folks, don't get me wrong. If you're somebody out there that's like going like not making very good money and you're thinking like, I need a career change, there's nothing wrong with it. Okay. It's just that this particular person is not, is not going to have a big career change right now in his life. Like it's, and you know, and then I have other friends of mine that like have not worked and, for some substantial amount of time and, or barely work like Blackie, like he doesn't listen to this show, so it doesn't matter. Like,
Right.
like what does that guy do? Like he does this wine show thing, right? Once every 3 months or something, he posts up something about it. And then, like, you know, I don't think he has another job.
He's got to.
Or his mom's giving him money. He's living with his mom, I think. I don't think so. I don't think he's got a job. I don't think so. I mean, he could tell me I'm wrong. But, like...
Well, I don't know.
Right, I don't know either. But it's like I know a bunch of these kinds of people. And it's like... I don't understand. I just don't know. I asked Joe the other day, I was like, hey, man... you know, everybody's hiring right now, you know, are you finding anything good that you want to go do? And he's like, I don't want to do none of it. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to do any of it. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to go to work either, dude. I'd like to win the millions of dollars and do whatever the fuck I want like everybody else. But, you know, I go to work, you know? So it's like, I'm looking at this guy and I'm like, yeah, okay. But like, you do know you have to go, like, you know, like, I don't know what you're living on. Like, you know, like is grandma sending you a card for your birthday every year, $20 in it, and you're somehow making that work for a year, you know, because like that guy has not been working since April and he didn't get unemployment. Right. I mean, yeah, he probably got the, stimulus checks. Right. But he didn't get anything else. And so like, I'm just sitting there scratching my head. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. I mean, like, and so it's like, but it's not even that. Like, if you don't want to work and all that kind of thing, that's fine. But like, he's another one. He's not that far away from retirement, and he's got no savings, right? If he does, he's blowing it right now. So he's going to just be living off Social Security and Medicare, and he's going to be like, I don't know, man, in like a row house or something, because he's got, you know, he's not, look, dude, like your situation is okay right now in the sense of you could DoorDash forever, basically. Like you can be 70, as long as you can still drive, you can still DoorDash. You can get extra money and go DoorDash. And so you can supplement your income for the rest of your life as long as you can drive. Right. But this guy, he's too good for going to do what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to do that shit for people. It's kind of like Adam, you know? Like, who the fuck are they? That's another one. You know what I mean? Like, what's that guy going to do? You know, does Adam have some kind of retirement plan? No. You know? So, like, he's going to be living off Social Security, and there's going to be this divide between, like, people like you, me, my brother, maybe Don Cease, you know, people on that side, and then the Moles, the Joes, the Adams, etc. on the other side that are going to be just living off of the dole, you know, just whatever the government gives them every month, and that's all they're going to get. And in some cases, I don't even know if they're going to get very much because they haven't worked enough. Like Adam, I could you imagine trying to, like, if you worked at the Social Security Administration and you tried to assess if Adam's got enough hours worked at all the jobs that he's had in his life to determine what he should get paid. I mean, that would be insane.
No.
Anyway, I'm kind of griping about our friends. Like, I love all of our friends and everything, and they're all quirky and everything. I guess in a way, I kind of worry about people, and I kind of see that, like, you know, like, you guys, this is going to get, like, look, as you get older, it's only going to get worse. Like your body starts falling apart. You know what I mean? Like you're going to end up with medical problems or health issues. Now, it might not be now. It might be 20 years from now, but we're all checking out at some point. Everybody's going to get something. You're either going to have a sudden heart attack or some fucking disease is going to get you, or maybe you get murdered or an accident. You're a statistic, but something's going to get you, right? We've talked about this in the past, so I don't want to harp on that. But the thing is it's like, if you're having a hard fucking time right now where you're like, I don't want to work, I'm staying with my parents. Like, God, good that dude somehow has two parents that are still around. You know what I mean? Like that's great, but I worry that guy is going to be in, up Schitt's Creek without a paddle. And, when you talk to him about it, he's all like, I don't care. I'm going to be dead before that happens anyway. Like that all denial fucking thing. And it's like, dude, you're not. You know what I mean? Like you're totally fine. And you're not the kind of guy that's going to actually like slit your wrists or something, It's all
you're going to make a
it's all big talk. It's all just big talk. And, I'm not going to push him, go ahead and do it then. You know what I mean? I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, like, it's not realistic. Like, realistic is like Tupac says to the bum in Gridlocked, he's like, get a fucking job, man. Stop begging for money. And so I don't know. I just feel like, if you don't have it together by now, you're really in, you really got problems. You got issues is all.
You got somebody like him who's like, hey, it doesn't matter. I'll be dead before all that happens. And it's like, you're going to be surprised when your life takes a quick pit stop to the right on homelessness before you die.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, you're eventually going to die, but then you're going to be in the streets. It's like, you're going to have nothing. It's just...
Yeah. I mean, he can inherit what he can inherit from his folks and live off that for 10 years or so. But it's just ridiculous. It's just going to be a stretch. And if that even goes down that way, he's still got two parents. I mean, if one kicks it, the other one might go on another 10 years. You know what I mean? And what's he going to do the whole time? Continue to not work? Like, I don't know, man. It freaks me out in so many ways because I can just see like there's people that got a plan and then there's people that are just like our age and it takes me back to the point of this topic. Like that's some shit like our parents would not put themselves into these kinds of positions. Could you imagine if your folks would have been like, we're going to go live with Grammy and Gramps because I don't want to work. You know what I mean? Like you'd be like, what? It was bad enough when I was growing up. My dad, he didn't want to put forth like a lot of effort and he worked, but like it's hard to explain. Like he had these bad marriages and I get it. But he owed the IRS like $10,000 or something, right? From back taxes. And at that point in the early 90s, 10 grand would have been like owing 30 grand today or something, or 40 grand. It was a lot of money. For him to make the payments on that, was really cutting into his wage. And so like, I think in my head, like, like why, like he wasn't paying child support. He had my brother for a while and me, right? You know what I mean? My brother was too old and then he just had me when I was graduating high school. Wasn't paying child support. So so like if he made more money, he wasn't going to get dinged for making more money. So I was always kind of just wondering in my head, like, why didn't my dad just like try and like get over, like, get a better position or work a second job and stuff. And he worked like as a telemarketer for a little while to get a little extra money and then he quit. Like he was just kind of done with that, which I don't blame him. Telemarketing is kind of bullshit, but like he didn't even stay in it long enough to really do anything. I think he just kind of like fixed his car and then kind of went on from there. And I don't know, like, I mean, you probably know this story, but like, I when I first got my first job, I didn't get paid for like the first few months or whatever, waiting for my social security card. And then my dad asked me for the money. He's like, I need the money to pay bills, you know? And what am I going to say? I'm living there. You know what I mean? Like, he's paying my bills too. Like, I can't be like, fuck that. I'm going to go party with the money you pay for my fucking rent and shit. You know what I mean? So, I mean, he eventually slowly paid me back $1 here or $1 there. He kept track of everything. But that was the kind of relationship where it annoyed me because, you know what I mean? Like, other kids in high school, and not like you or any of our close friends, but like other kids in school had basically whatever they wanted, right? Yeah. Like they had designer clothes, they had cars. If they wanted a car, they had nice things, you know, people were taking care of them and they could do extracurricular activities and they had stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. And anything that I had, and probably the same with you, you had to buy yourself. You had to go to work and you had to go buy it. And even the things that I would ask my dad for, he was marking it off in a book, the less money owed to Kevin, you know, like he wasn't even contributing that way. Yeah. And so, you know, it would burn me up at times thinking about it because it seemed very unfair. And if you're thinking I learned some, like if you're out there and you're thinking, well, that might have given you the drive to do better. Well, it gave me the drive to work. But it didn't really give me the drive to like, I don't know, like succeed in certain ways. Right. Because like, it seems like people that have means tend to, not always, but tend to have kids that also grow up to have those same means. You know what I mean? Right. The senator's son becomes a senator and, you know, the doctor's son becomes a doctor or a lawyer or whatever. There seems to be a sort of a rotating axis there. And Brian and I just, you know, came out differently. We both have a work ethic. Mine's better than his, but he still works. I mean, I give my brother some credit. You know, he became a truck driver and he's stuck with it and he still does it. And, you know, better or worse. But anyway, and so like, you know, I don't know, man. I don't know. I just think about like, parents and how things were and how different it was. And I don't know. I think it's cool that we can go to heavy metal shows at our age and still have fun and hang out with our friends at times and still have fun. But I just don't know if like for you and I, because, you know, you can supplement your income on demand and I have a regular job. Like we're flexible that way. We can do stuff. But like these other guys, I don't know if they're going to be able to keep up at that point. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you see signs of that in a way, you know, hey, we're all going to go see a movie. I can't, I got to save money. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean, you're fucking 52. It's a movie, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you can't work that out, I guess. Like you got to hold on to that $12 or I don't know. You know, I mean, if you don't want to see the movie, it's cool. You know what I mean? But if you're telling me it's because it's a money thing, okay, it's just weird.
As a parent, which is weird to say still, I find like sometimes I'll find myself feeling like guilty because I'm just like, because I'll look at Sophie, I'll be like, she didn't do any of the stuff that I did. Like we said earlier, I was like, we never had when I had people over at the apartment. Right. It was Adam, Clint, like, you know, you or some local comedians or just, you know, it wasn't a big group of people. It was like one person here, one person there, or whatever. Yeah, sure. So it's like she'd always come out and be like, what? Who's this? And I'd be like, this is so and so, and da, 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 da. And she'd never see them again or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like she didn't have it like I did. And sometimes I'm just like, man, I'm a bad parent. Like I should have, you know, this should be better this way, or I should have been doing this. And it's, you know what? It's just a sign that it's just the times. You know what I mean? It's different.
My parents were divorced. Like, you know, you were dealing with a divorce situation. Like my parents were divorced, and my dad didn't have a lot of people over. I met a few of his friends. You know what I mean? He was more antisocial. But my mom, when I stayed with my mom, man, I would see all kinds of dudes over there. A lot of dirtbag guys, you know, that wanted one thing. And she'd have them over and get drunk with them and stuff. And you'd just be shaking my head like, I'm going to my room. Because, you know, like, I don't want any part of this nonsense. this fucking crazy house, and and she'd have friends over from work and all that kind of stuff. So that's not unusual for a divorce situation, Don. That's pretty normal.
Yeah, well,
but I get what you're saying. She had it differently than you did, but imagine, you're the, and this, but I'm just saying this in general. It's like you're the island of like reprieve from the craziness of her mother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She genuinely probably looks forward to going to dad's because, you're more laid back and you know how to have fun. And there's just not, I mean, I'm not going to knock Julie or anything, but she's got some issues, right? And so, I'm sure your daughter kind of appreciates it, because if you and Julie had stayed together and she had nowhere to go, yeah, right, it would have been way worse. So I think she appreciates you for what this situation is. That's all.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Julie in when did you get divorced? 20 years ago or something? I don't know. Like, I saw her I think the last time I actually saw her was when you were living in Seville and I gave you that car. Like, I think I saw her then. I saw her one of those times.
Yeah.
And that was it. Like, I don't think I saw her since then. And that was a long fucking time ago.
Out of all my friends, she liked you. She was like, I like Kevin Baird. I was like, oh.
Yeah, because I was never around.
Yeah.
Except I was on the phone with you on Sundays and shit.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'd be like,
It's like, if you like him so much, why do you keep interrupting me?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Folks, yeah. There's not, this is, as usual with this show, it's just about perspective, but it was just something I was thinking about. And I, as I get older, I reminisce a little bit more, but I don't have a lot of fond memories of big chunks of my childhood. So I don't sit around and being like, it was better when we were young, because I'll tell you what, it wasn't. And I don't really care for a lot of it. I'm much happier being an adult and on my own. And it's been good.
Yeah. It's like this. It's like now you're older, right? If you spend 3 hours in front of the TV, switching channels, watching different shows, whatever, eating food, eating chips or whatever, you're just sitting here and you're like, man, I just wasted 3 hours. That was pretty boring. If you think back to when you were a kid and you only had 3 channels to choose from, probably no snacks in the house. You know what I mean? There was nothing to record, nothing to record with, TV shows, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. That 3 hours back when you were a kid, way more boring than it is now.
Oh, oh yeah. I mean, the things you'd have to try to come up with to do, like putting a bunch of ingredients in the sink to make like some sort of science experiment, or to make up shit out of the nowhere, like your imagination, because it's all you had. And people are always like, that's wonderful. It really wasn't. I mean, it was a way that you were just trying to kill fucking time, because you had so much of it now. I mean, I would have killed to have a cell phone when I was a kid, just because of all the things you could do on the damn thing, and it was not every single moment was awful or anything, but I just mean like the bulk of it was no good for most of my childhood life. And my teenage life got a little bit better because I started hanging out with these guys, and we were all a lot more camaraderie, and I started to date girls, which helped too. But everything before that was just, I just didn't, being the worst thing about being a kid in a restrictive household is the fact that you have no rights. Like, you have no freedom. You know what I mean? Like, you can't declare anything. You can't just be like, I am not doing that. You know what I mean? Like, you can say that, but you're going to get your ass handed to you. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to end up doing it anyway. Like, as a kid, you're in like perpetual prison and like constant fear of something you did that gets found out, because there's plenty of things you did that nobody knows about, but some things eventually get discovered, and it's a horror show when it happens, And I tell you, I look back on that and I always think like there were lots of like when I lived with my dad, when he was remarried to my stepmonster, I didn't get on with her and her family. This woman didn't love me. You know what I mean? I came with the marriage, right?
Right.
She had 5 kids of her own. And, she wasn't exactly thrilled that my mom didn't pay child support, right? We're struggling in Ohio and everything. And I'm coming home from school with my big mouth or whatever. And, she probably just, tried to, take some sort of pain relievers in her head, having 7 kids in the house, and tried to manage that hellhole we were in. But all I can tell you is that I didn't walk into a house of like love like some families do. I drive down the road and I see these moms come out and greet their kids when they come off school buses at times, and they're hugging their kid and they're holding their hand and they're walking into the house and they're talking and that whole like loving relationship that kids have with their parents. Like, I didn't have any of that. You know what I mean? Like, even with my dad, like my dad wasn't the kind of guy, like I was going to go up and hold his hand or something. You know what I mean? Like he was just a quiet working class dude. Like he didn't, he just wanted to make sure I wasn't going to come up to him at some point and be like, Dad, I'm gay. You know what I mean? That was his big worry. Like he wasn't worried about anything else. And so like, I didn't have any of that. Most of my childhood was kind of like an undertone of fear, because I didn't know what was going to happen when I walked in that house. Like I wasn't going to get beat. I occasionally got smacked around and everything, but you know what I mean? There's a difference between that kind of,
abuse and discipline.
Yeah. When we were kids. Today you might go to jail, but when we were kids, there was a difference between, discipline and abuse. But you didn't know. And you also didn't know like the scale of punishments that could happen. Like we used to get interims, like report cards were bad, but report cards, you could decide the timing on when you gave it to your parents. You know what I mean? Like you could wait for the mood to be right, where interims came in the mail, and they were, if you live in a place that didn't have them, I don't know if they still do this kind of thing now with computers and everything. You probably could check grades immediately, but back in the day, halfway between report card, you would get a letter in the mail saying how your student was doing, and it would show their grades, essentially. Mm-hmm. And in my house, man, if you were failing something, I mean, it was for my stepmom, that was like she failed. You know what I mean? And she wasn't going to fail. Like she was going to raise all hell and get out, because that's not going to happen, because it would look bad to my dad's ex-wife. You know what I mean? Like my mom wouldn't have given a shit, but that didn't matter. It was one of these things like that can't happen. So the amount of grief and suffering that I had to go through over stupid shit like that, it's crazy, man. And I used to come home from school and I had to do a paper route. So I would come home from school and I'd have to get my papers. And sometimes like once a week, I'd have to go house to house, knock on the door and ask people for the money for the last week's paper. And so I would start at around 3 something when I got home from school, and I would get home close to 6, right? In the dark in wintertime. Yeah. And, and then you'd eat like dinner leftovers because everybody else ate at like 5 or something, and you just have to do homework and then you just go to bed. And like my life was just kind of, in that point in my life, it was just really fucking miserable. It was really miserable for my brother too. But anyway, I don't want to get all into all of it, but I think it led to some of my anxiety later in life that I had. But my point is that things were really different back then, and I don't want to make it sound like it was in any way better, because it wasn't for me. It might have been for some people. People watch these Stranger Things and they reflect back on the 80s, and I had a BMX bike that was a hand-me-down. It was cool. I played some of these toys that kids had that you see on these shows, but what they're not showing you on these shows is the level of discipline and terror that I had to grow up with. And I know, Don, you had a lot of that too. You did have, your mom and everything, but your dad had some discipline with you that I'm
Oh,
aware of,
yeah.
and you were one of those ones too. It wasn't always fun coming home.
No, because you hear the sound of that belt coming out. And all of a sudden it was just like, oh, what did I do now?
Right.
And,
There's nowhere you can go. Like if I was in my house right now and I was living with somebody, who knows, right? If I was living with somebody and I heard them like getting the belt because they were mad I didn't wash dishes. I mean, first of all, I'd probably fight them. You know?
Right.
But if I couldn't,
Yeah.
if it was like some tiny lister dude that was like way bigger than me, I'd just run out of the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I get in my car and I'd be like, fuck this. I'd be like, get out. I'd be gone. But as a kid, you can't do any of that. You know what I mean?
Right.
You just have to sit there like, what the fuck is going to happen now? You know?
Sometimes you stand outside the door of the house. You're just like, I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in. I don't want to go in.
Right? No. I mean, one time I didn't go home. My grades were in the shitter. That was after all that, girlfriend stuff. And I told my brother, I said, listen, I'm not going home. Dad's going to kill me. So I just... If he asks, just tell him, not coming home. And he went and found me at, my brother told him I was up at Hills or something, and my dad came up there, and he was cool about it. And he's like, it was probably good that you weren't home when I saw your grades. But he's like, we'll get you some tutoring help or whatever. I'm like, all right, you're not going to kill me? All right. But I mean, because most of the time, it'd be a fucking, it'd be a horror show. I'm so glad I'm an adult. I feel for kids that have parents like I had, because it was just bad. But anyway.
Yeah.
Wrapping up the show here. I just wanted to say, with my current day job, normally I work on a team of 4, not including my boss. I have 2 bosses because my one boss is in training, but the one boss, she's on the team. She's basically the primary boss, but she's not my like human resources boss. I just want to point this out. And so I have another actual boss that does all of that sort of stuff. But for the most part, I have a team, including myself, of 4. And we are on a sort of rotation, right? So 1 week, you're primary, which is on call. Okay. So if an incident happens, software fails for some reason in the middle of the night, when you're primary, you'll get a call from the bank. It sounds like you're getting a call from like the CIA or something. It's like, this is an important message, blah, 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 blah. Gives you a bunch of numbers and stuff, press 1 now to accept this call and stuff. Anyway, you don't get too many of those. Like if you're primary during the week, you might get 1, maybe 2 in a week. And then sometimes you have to do these changes that start at about 10 p.m. at night, and they go until, however long they take. It could be an hour, it could be 2 hours, you could be up until the middle of the night. And then 1 week out of your rotation shift, you're what they call secondary. And on secondary, you don't get the calls unless something happens to primary. Primary gets hit by a bus, right? Or their phone breaks and they can't get those emergency calls. Then it escalates to you. But for the most part, what secondary does is secondary gets up early, like early in the morning, and has to do a sort of a checks and balance list that takes about an hour, right? But it's really early in the morning. Yeah. And so other than that, then you have like a regular third, like the third and the fourth person on the team, like during this rotation, they're kind of just working a regular 9 to 5 type of job. The reason I'm bringing this up is that we had 2 people recently leave the team. So there's just 2 of us on the team right now. So that means on any given week, I'm either the primary or I'm the secondary. And so I'm not getting any breaks right now. And it takes a while to train up somebody to do what we do. It's hard actually to hire somebody in general for what we do because it's very specialized. And then it's a long process of like months to get that person to a point where they can be trusted to do the on-call type of work. Maybe not the secondary checklist early in the morning work, but the primary on-call work takes some time. The reason I'm bringing this up is that until we get this kind of sorted, I may cancel the show here or there. Don't be mad at me if we get behind on shows. We have a pretty good buffer. Donnie's still doing Donnie stories and tumbling tales as he thinks of them. And we can pad some of it with that. But if you notice that we might skip a show here and there, it's just because the way things are, I have to work crazy shifts, and it's hard for me then to, when we record this show, I might, be in the middle of something else. And Don, of course, I will let you know when that happens. But I just want people to be aware. This is only temporary, and then we'll get back into a normal rhythm. I'm not planning on canceling any shows or anything, but if I'm feeling wiped out, we're just going to have to call it for that week. And then, try to hit it up on the next week, because it's a little bit insane right now. Somebody better give me a big bonus at the end of the year for being constantly on call or partially on call nonstop, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
Other than that, I ain't got anything else. You got anything else?
Nah. No.
All right, man. Well, congratulations on your car. We'll talk next week then and hear more about it.
Yeah.
See how it goes. Okay.
Cool.
Thanks, everybody. Peace.
Peace.
You've been listening to Oblast with Don and Kevin. If you'd like to write into the show, send an email to oblast@vgn.us. That is VGN as in video game news. And be sure to check out our Patreon page, which is at patreon.com/VGN, where you can get all of our shows, our videos, and some musings. Be sure to tune in each week for new episodes on our Patreon page or every other week on the public RSS feed that you're subscribed to now. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Peace.